All right, good day. Good day, everybody. Welcome to another live broadcast. Today is Sunday, August the 3rd, 2025. Another month, brand new month. We're going to be starting here in a little bit. We're just waiting for people to get on, and then we're going to literally jump right into the topic at hand, okay? All right. Almost there. We're going to give it about another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll be starting, okay? We're going to be talking about looking at the civil rights generation versus today's generation, but we're going to look at it from a much different perspective. We're going to be focused on the brain and what were their brains like when we're doing the comparison between the two. Which one was more prepared for the challenges that was before them? We're going to talk about that. Like I said, again, we're going to dive right into that today, okay? All right, I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. I told you I'm just going to jump right in today. Because I got other things I'm going to be working on today, so I'm trying to get things done. So anyway, good to see you guys, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I am broadcasting live, as always, from the great state of Arizona, where the temperature right now is 109. The other day, it got up to 114. But even 114, that's still a little bit low. I mean, on the higher end, we've had, I think already this year, we've reached up to 118, I think. So yeah, it's quite warm. So like always, when it gets warm like this, when you do go out, you go out with a mission at hand. You go and do what you got to do, and then you break up, do what you got to do, get what you need to get, and come on back home, and that's it. But hey, that rhymed. But anyway, but if you want to go out, go for your walks and all that, you do that during the day. But again, this is summertime. But once we get into the cooler months, I mean, it's beautiful. It is beautiful out in this part of the country, and I love it out here. Love seeing the mountains and all of that, and it is beautiful. And I was thinking earlier today about our time when we were living in Colorado. Same thing, another beautiful state. If you ever get the chance, if you're an East Coaster, and like myself, that's where I was born and raised. If you never had the opportunity to get out and do hiking and stuff in this part of the country, you definitely want to check in on that. It's you are missing a whole lot. It's really beautiful out here. So when you hear about the heat, don't let that scare you. Hey, remember now, our melanated folk, we're built for this, so we good, okay? But it's still hot though. I ain't gonna lie. But anyway, good to have you guys here today. I wanted to do this video here. I just finally yesterday, these last few days, I've been extremely tired, and so I'm learning to listen to my body. So I was just doing that, just resting. And but today I did get the video up over on Somber Tree, on our Somber Tree YouTube page. on the next part of the whole brain series that we're doing. And yeah, you definitely want to check that one out. We're at part 4. Well, really is part 5 if you include the intro. And so yeah, so the next part, the next installment has been done. It's uploaded. And yeah, it was good. So you definitely want to watch it. And I try to make them as short as possible, but also informative. And why are we doing this? Again, this is a free course that we're offering. We're doing this because it is critical. It's important for you to learn the functionalities of your brain, especially now, because we got to get off of just waving people off as simply crazy or nah, they're just acting like niggas, you know, or whatever. But because that's not telling the whole story. We need to know, we need to learn about what's really going on up here. Doesn't mean you got to become a doctor. You just need to know what's going on up here. And so that you can make some course corrections starting here. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think a very good way of doing that in this video here. So I uploaded that video there. That goes into the technicals of it. But I here in this topic here, we're going to look at these 2 generations. We're going to look at the civil rights era, right? Civil rights era people. And then we're going to look at the people today. All right. We're going to look at the people today, and we're asking the question, which group can we honestly say was better prepared for the challenges that were before them? All right. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's see here. And like I said, good to see those that are here that are joining us today. So the first thing to keep in mind is this: both generations has their own unique set of challenges. As someone who was born right at 1970, so I was kind of like on the border there. I was still in that civil rights kind of, it was going out and transitioning into something else. And then, you know, here comes my generation, what they call Generation X. And I remember, you know, I would say in the last 5, maybe even 10 years, I've heard many people oftentimes when they talk about the civil rights generation, you know, they oftentimes talk about them as if they're weak and, you know, that they were very passive and, you know, and basically they really didn't do much for us. And so we are not like them. In other words, we're not going to take things sitting down anymore in this generation. Now we're going to stand up and we're going to fight and we're going to do all this stuff. And so what I want to do in this video is I actually want to challenge you on that. Okay, I want to challenge you on that. So let me just start off by saying, again, if you're an individual that has a very short attention span, you don't like details, you just want someone to tell you what to put in your hand so you can go do something, this is not the video. Will this video have solutions? Absolutely, it will. But again, I'm not catering to the TikTok generation in this video, nor in any other of the videos that we do, okay? But we are going to talk about the problems, but we're also going to wrap it up and talk about the solutions. What are the things we can do? You understand? So anyway, so here we go. So this is what I know for myself, and I'm sure many of you have heard this generation depict the generation of times past, like in, you know, civil rights era, or whatever, as a generation that, you know, you see the videos of them, you know, taking the fire hoses and the dogs being sicked on them, and, you know, them sitting down doing sit-ins while some, you know, racist white people come up to them and put things, you know, pouring sugar on them and salt on their heads and spitting on them and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, people in this generation look at that and say, oh, hell no, I would not do that. If I was living during that time, it would be nuts up. We getting ready to go down. We getting ready to go into blows. But I want you to slow down a little bit and let's think this through. Okay, let's think this through for a moment. Now, yes, was it passive? Yes. Did Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders push this as passive? Yes, it was. But I want you to let's think about the why behind that. Okay. Now, what's be the best way to do this? Okay. So the reason why did they do this? Because this generation, the people who participated, who were active participants in the civil rights movement, and not all black people were active participants in it. So that's a lot of times people assume that, but there are a lot of black folks who were sitting on the sidelines and just waiting for whatever comes. But you had active participants in it. These individuals, they had to think their strategy all the way through. They had to think it all the way through. They had to think like, okay, now on one hand, yes, I want to knock these people out. I see you pushing down our women. I see you sicking dogs on our children, on us, and doing all kinds of stuff. I want to, and I have some means to come back at you and come back at you pretty hard. You understand? And so there were a lot of black folks who that passed through their minds. So when you think about this generation, I don't want you to think about them as being passive in the sense of there was nothing going through their minds as if they didn't want to do anything. They did. They wanted to do something. But here's the thing. They had to think this thing all the way through. Okay? So here we go again with what we've been talking about with the whole brain thing. And there's a lot of parts of the brain, but we're going to focus on 2 parts of the brain today. All right? And I'm going to keep on these 2 main parts until you get it, okay? Because there are a lot of people that hear it and then don't get it. But I want you to get it. We're going to deal with the amygdala. One more time, we're dealing with the amygdala, which is the place where your emotions and all of that formulate and all of that, right? Your amygdala. And then we're also going to look at prefrontal cortex, which is also known as your executive part, the executive part of your brain, okay? So you're dealing in a high emotional situation, very high emotional situation. Your amygdala is going to fire off automatically, and it's going to throw all kinds of suggestions on what you should be doing at that moment. Like in that case, somebody comes up to you and want to beat you up and spit on you and do all this other stuff. You ready to fight, right? But it's your executive part of your brain. It's the part that says, hold on, wait a minute. Let's think big picture here. If we do this in that way, what's going to happen? How is that going to impact the bigger picture that we're trying to address here? And the bigger picture, of course, is they wanted to be treated as everybody else in the country, right? But they understood that, hey, listen, if we go off right now, we understand that how this is going to be portrayed and how this is going to be seen throughout the world. And it's going to have an adverse effect on the messaging that we are trying to put out. It's just like when we think about the Pettus Bridge down in Alabama, there are people in this generation today will look at that event and say, these people, these Negroes were absolutely, totally weak. And we're not going to do that. I would never do that. These are weak. They were fools for doing that, for allowing these cops to beat up all on them, all that whole nine. And it's easy to sit back and make that assessment. However, what I would submit to you is that these individuals understood the bigger assignment. There was a much larger assignment. And that assignment, unfortunately, you had to play the optics game. You had to. Because they understood that they understood 2 things. One, they were not equipped to fight physically toe-to-toe with the police and the National Guard. They understood that. They didn't have that kind of firepower. And they knew that that was going to end up in a terrible loss. And basically no ground is going to be made in doing that. So they knew that was a bad strategy. Off the cuff, that was not going to be a good strategy. And then secondly, they understood that, hey, listen, we got to not think of now. We can't think of now. We got to think of future generations. So if I got to get my butt kicked, if I got to take these licks now, in order for them to recognize, hey, listen, the world to recognize that, wait a minute, we going too far. These people are actually making us look like fools for what we're doing. That was their end game in doing that. And by doing that, they actually did make some inroads into changing the narrative, so to speak. Because you had all of these stereotypes that black folks were this and that, were violent, that, all that kind of stuff. And it was in that moment that they made it very clear. They made a statement but it was a much painful statement that they had to make in regards, when it came to taking this non-violent kind of approach, because they understood they had to see the big picture. Do you understand what I'm saying? They had to look at the big picture, not react to the tyranny of the moment. Okay? That's how they had to do. That's how they had to react. And so now when you jump to today, we're going to go back and forth here. And when you jump to today's mindset in this generation, it's not the same. It is not the same. When you look at how this generation, and I'm including myself in this as well, in this generation, our reaction is we just at any given moment, somebody says something, we ready to go to blows. We ready to get down on them. We ready to go off on them. And it's not just against white people. It's against our own. We do this. So this ability that the previous generation had to see the big picture and understand, hold on, let me think this all the way through first before I do something. That is something that we do not see a lot of at all today. We don't see it, unfortunately. And let me back up a little bit here. The civil rights movement, another thing that it had was, even though things were not perfect, these people weren't perfect. We understand that. But they had to think, and I'm still thinking about this big picture thing. Let me switch to that. This whole big picture thing. When they would do boycotts, when these individuals, when they were doing boycotts, understand this. Their boycotts were also something that they thought all the way through. They had to think it all the way through. I want you to follow me on this. They had to think their boycotts all the way through. So you will not hear in all the documentation and records that we have, you will not hear during a wartime, in which that was a wartime, I would consider that, of black folks, regardless of where they came from, boycotting one another. You would not hear of that. That was not going on. These individuals, they understood that they had to have allies, as many allies as possible. So these individuals, they will partner with other groups. They will partner with whomever was willing to partner with them so that they can get their tasks done. They was willing to do that. So they were looking for allies during this time. That's what was happening. And so that even when you had businesses, the businesses that practice Jim Crow, for example, in other words, when they would tell people, black folks, hey, listen, you can't come in the front door. You got to come in the back door. Those are the businesses they said, okay, we're going to boycott those. Businesses that were not really that were working against the interests of black folks. Those were the businesses that black folks fought against and they boycotted against. Now let's jump to today. What do we see? What do we see today? You see people boycotting businesses, and I'm talking now, like, for example, like Target. They're boycotting these businesses over DEI. And we've talked about DEI. Again, Black Enterprise Magazine. All you got to do is look this up. Look, in fact, anything I say, challenge it. Look it up. Look it up. It's easier and easier to do this stuff today. Don't take my word for it. DEI, this was re-reported because Black Enterprise was actually reposting a study that was done. DEI, it only benefited, what was it? 4%. I think it was 4% of Black Americans benefited from DEI. 4%. So what was this whole protest about when it came to Target? It was crazy. So, but on the flip, there are many Targets that I've been to, and I'm sure that many of you've been to Target as well. I see numbers of Black individuals that are working there. Numbers. So when you are boycotting businesses like Target, you are inadvertently boycotting your own economic interest. It's just like when I was talking about the amount of Black businesses that are very much still on the shelves in places like Target and Walmart and a lot of other large retailers. You will still find Black retailers in there. This whole idea that people have that somehow once DEI got done away with, that they were just going to do one big house cleaning and get rid of all black retailers simply because they're black, it shows just how out of touch economically a lot of people are when it comes to their knowledge of how the business works. They're not going to do that because you're black. They're doing that if they are getting rid of manufacturers off their shelves. They're doing it because those manufacturers did not meet whatever the requirements were to stay on that shelf when it comes to sales. You understand? So if your sales are up, what business today in 2025 would say, okay, get rid of them? There's no profitable, successful business that's going to do that. There's no way. But a lot of people, they just want to jump to these conclusions. Listen to these bastard pastors out here that want to put in your mind that somehow, oh, they just in the nighttime while you're sleeping, they're going and they're just ripping black people off the shelves. They're not doing that, and there's no sign of that. And we've looked into this, and I would encourage you to look into it as well and stop buying into the BS that these people are putting out here and reposting it and regurgitating it instead of taking the time and looking into it yourself. But that's not happening. So you're boycotting your own economic interests when you're doing this kind of stuff. But when you go back to what they were doing during the civil rights era, they weren't doing that. Businesses that were for the betterment of black folks and the progression of them and all that kind of stuff, those businesses were the ones that were protected. And you also had a higher rate of black-owned businesses that were successful. They were successful. And those businesses were the ones that benefited off of these boycotts. Now let's go back. Let's jump back again to this modern era that we're in. Currently, we got this thing going on where, you know, you got black folks, black Americans saying we're going to boycott African braiding shops and restaurants and anything African, we're boycotting it. You know, I saw one, they said they boycotting Indian shops and all this, whatever, right? And I already knew it wasn't like, again, what you're hearing when you hear a lot of people saying that, a lot of that is just echo off of the internet. That's not real people that's actually doing that. It clearly is. And I mean, it's like we talked about this mega braiding shop that's in Maryland. They had a huge successful opening. I mean, it was jam packed. They're doing very well. So that tells you that it's all echo. But what I'm saying is this, is that these, when you look at back then, I'm talking about during the civil rights era, they could say, all right, we're going to boycott these businesses because they are in the Jim Crow. They are against or anti the progression of black Americans. So we're going to boycott them. But that still leaves an empty void that you have just created by doing a boycott. Now you need who is going to fill this void to supply these products and services that we still need. So during that time, again, they use their brains to think that all the way through and already had a plan B already in place. But today, what do we hear today? Boycott, 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 boycott. But then when we look at the business, okay, what's the plan B? Well, I don't know. We just gonna, we're gonna go to black businesses. Okay, well, what black businesses are you talking about? Okay, so you're gonna boycott African businesses, let's say. African restaurants. Okay, you're gonna boycott African restaurants. Okay, you're gonna do that. And some people even suggested Caribbean restaurants. Okay, so you're gonna do that. Okay, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to soul food restaurants? How many soul food restaurants are out there today? I've actually looked into this. Again, I would encourage you to do it yourself. You can look this stuff up. It only takes a few seconds to do this stuff, but a lot of people don't want to do it. Look it up. Look it up. Soul food restaurants have been on a decline since the 60s. They are still around. There are still soul food restaurants around, but they have been going on the decline for a lot of reasons. One, soul food restaurants, like a lot of other traditional ethnic restaurants, they are family run. But as the generations progress, the younger generations like, listen, I ain't trying to be stuck on that. I want to get my computer job. I want to do this or whatever. So oftentimes you'll have the younger generation that will pivot off into something else. And that's not just impacting soul food restaurants, but it's been impacting Chinese restaurants. Others look into it. another thing too is that the palates of Americans have been progressively changing. So you will find that you got some people who don't necessarily want soul food. They want soul food, but mixed with something else. Or you got soul food mixed with Caribbean food, and soul food. And you got a restaurant, I think in Philadelphia, it's soul Chinese food. So it's constantly changing now. But this whole traditional, we just gonna go to soul food restaurants, that it's like not even an option now. And so you got, like I said again, so you got people pushing these narratives that, okay, we're going to boycott. But unlike our elders from the civil rights era, they're not thinking it all the way through. They're not. So you want to, your amygdala is telling you, boycott. I'm tired of these people. They get on my last nerve. And then you get, that's what your amygdala is saying. But your prefrontal cortex, because you haven't exercised it, it's set up here like, okay, well, whatever you want to do. And so I want to show you, okay, let me get to Earl's comment here. I just want to jump on this real quick. He said, it doesn't matter. We got to do something to get these people straight, that when we buy, they got to respect us back. Okay, Earl, like I said, listen. Please listen, brother Earl. Please listen. What exactly is your plan B? What is your plan B? I understand completely if you are dealing with an individual or individual specific shops, and let's just be clear with this. Not all African people fall within this narrative that they hate Black Americans. So we got to get off of that. There are numbers of Africans, Caribbeans who understand and they see what's going on. They're doing their part to address the madness. And I don't see anything wrong with partnering with them for those that have demonstrated that. But to take this approach that somehow all of them got to be hurt because of this, that's nuts. You're not thinking it all the way through. You're just not. You're not. And if you're looking for true allies, that's how you do it. And there are many allies out there. This ain't you, regardless if you're Pan-African, this ain't even, it may sound like a Pan-African message, but it really isn't. Because heck, I'm saying, listen, whoever is pro the progression of a healthy Black community, I'm with you. I don't care. You white, Asian, Hispanic, I don't care. I'm with you. You understand? But there's also got to be a two-way street with that too. It can't be just gimme. It's got to be, we got to help them and same thing. But this is what I'm saying to you, is that a lot of people don't take the time, slow your tail down, and don't consider the details, unlike our elders did during the civil rights era. They did slow down and they said, okay, let's take a look at who's with us versus who isn't. We don't find any record of them taking this broad brush approach and saying, all white people, we ain't gonna work with them. They didn't even do that back then. Don't you know that there were white business owners that were pro-Black community, pro-Black folks, and those businesses did not get boycotted? Do you know that? There are many white-owned businesses that were like that. But when it comes to people that look like us, we have more hatred towards them. There is no nuanced way of looking at it. It's just, you African, then get the hell out of my face. That's the mindset. But when it came to white folks back then, we took more of a nuanced look at it and said, okay, well, there's some businesses, okay, they rock with us. Okay, we're going to support them. When there are other businesses, no, we ain't going to rock with them. We ain't going to support them. But what I'm hearing today is, it don't matter if you're Caribbean. It doesn't matter if you're Indian. It doesn't matter if you're this. What y'all are doing is striking a whole columns of people without taking a detailed look, again, prefrontal cortex here, and analyzing all of that and making better choices and making better decisions. It's not there. That's what I'm saying. So when you go back to the civil rights era, that's what they did. That's what they practiced. You understand? And so let's see. Let me get you to these videos here. Hold on for a second. These are two videos. I don't think I'm gonna play them all the way through, but I do want you to see a couple of these videos here. All right, real quick. See, a lot of people, I'm gonna switch to these videos here. A lot of people today in this generation, you actually see yourself as this. I'm talking to the generation today, where we'll look back at the civil rights generation and say, oh, these are a bunch of, they just allow people just to walk over them. They were weak, they were passive and all of that. While this generation, this is how you see yourself. This is how you think you look like. Gentlemen, Madam Wood, you want to be street soldiers. You want to be street soldiers. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this in the street now. We're going to take this. We're going to take it now. We ready now. We ready now. But is that really unity? This is what I want to challenge many of you on. And this is what a lot of times people run away from, because I'm going to show you a comment that someone left today, because I want you to actually look at it with me, how these people think, how these certain individuals, how they actually think. Okay? We're going to look at it. See, many of you will look at that. You will look at IUIC or whatever. Oh, look at them. They marching together. See, this is the kind of unity. That ain't unity. That's just it looks like unity, but that isn't unity. Every day, I can show you story after story after story after story where black individuals are going after other black individuals. Just now in Phoenix, there was two stories that just happened. One, there was a shooting that involved some black teenager against another black. No. So what was it? It involved a black teenager. Unfortunately, he's no longer in the land of the living. Now, this was in Tempe, I believe. I think this was in Tempe. Now, Tempe ain't really known for its black folks, but the little bit of black folks that are there, this is what we got going on. And then in July, the latter part of July, there was a story involving a young black girl. I want to say she was in foster care. 14 years old, I believe. She's no longer in the land of the living too. You know what happened? Her father ended up ending her life. This happens every day. This kind of stuff happens all the time. And you can't even bring it up to talk about it unless you're getting attacked and saying you're beating up on black people. I'm bringing this up because you can't have unity when you're practicing disunity behind the scenes. And what greater way to practice disunity than to kill each other? But then like I said again, you bring this up, you show the stats, you show the numbers, you show the mothers crying, you show the fathers screaming out. I was watching a video, yesterday? A grandmother, and that's a video, I'm gonna do that video soon. I'm gonna take you step by step. Again, a police cam video investigation. It shows how religion played into this. This woman, all at the same time, she claimed to be an Aboriginal, original to the land. She was low-key Hebrew, Christian, and had a picture of a white Mary on her wall. And even with all of that, I'm listening to her, looking at the shots that they have of the apartment and everything that's in there. And the story involves her going off on her grandbaby to the point where she took a gun and ended the life of this 6-month-old baby. We're going to get into that. We're going to break that one down, and we're going to talk about that. But this kind of stuff happens all the time. This is normal in many areas. It is normal. A lot of people don't want to talk about it because they get angry when you talk about it. They automatically assume, oh, you beating up on me. There's this offense that automatically comes up. How dare you bring that up? But see, the prior generation, they understood, hey, listen, until we get our internal stuff together, we have to be unified. We have to be on one accord on some key values before we talk about building anything. And what we're seeing today is there is not, that we don't see that. That's not happening. Not on a scale that it needs to happen. We don't see that. Take a look at what we're seeing on social media right now. We see men going after the women, women going after the men saying we don't need y'all anymore, the women saying we don't need you anymore, that kind of thing. Take a snapshot of what you're seeing today, and I want you to compare it to the generation of that era. They had their differences, but the central part of the civil rights movement, particularly when we're talking about black folks, the thing that really held that together were black families. Black families. The black man, the black woman, and the black child. Though that was the foundation that kept that whole thing together. We're not seeing that today. Why? Because again, we're operating out of the amygdala, while this part of our brain, the front part, this prefrontal cortex, this is the executive part of the brain. When you don't use it, it shrinks. It literally shrinks. And your brain will almost always react almost 100% on emotion every time. And this is what we're seeing. Here's a video here. Another video here I want to show you right quick here. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. I want you to listen to this young lady here. Listen to what she's posting on social media.
And my question for y'all is, why aren't we blowing shit up how they used to blow our shit up, blow up our communities? Why aren't we flooding shit how they used to flood our fucking community? Huh? Why aren't we out here making their life harder just like they trying to be out here making our lives harder? And I don't want to hear none of that, oh, we're not built like that, we just don't have it in our hearts. Fuck that. They don't care about us and they never cared about us. And y'all trying to sit over here on some peace and love shit. Fuck that. Peace and love, peace and love. Where the fuck has that gotten us, bro? 400 plus years and y'all niggas ain't tired yet? Y'all niggas ain't angry yet? I'm pissed. I'm mad. These niggas been had it out for us for decades. Ages, bro. 400 plus years. And ain't shit changed. I don't give a fuck if they let us fucking slap on a fucking badge and work for these motherfuckers. I don't give a fuck. The shit is still the same.
Okay, so she going off on her F tirade or whatever. But here's the thing. This is the classic example of what I'm talking about. Now, this young lady is doing security work. She calling for basically low-key street war, basically, right? But she's calling for that at work. At work. And if you kept watching the video, the badge of her employer, it shows up. And so guess what people did? They took a snapshot of that. Now guess what's going to happen? She going to lose her job. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's, so we have developed this culture that we had the right to vent. We had the right to just let it out. But you're not even on the basic level, even thinking it all the way through. Because while you're venting, you're going to lose your job. And then when you lose your job, guess what's going to happen? You got something else now to blame on the system. But let me just say this, and I've said this before. It was a video we did a while back. This was a church in Tennessee that was literally, this is another Negro pastor that was calling for this whole street war. Because that's what they want. And when people say, well, I hear you saying all this stuff, but what's the solution? The solution that people typically want that say that, they want a street battle. So I said, okay, let me look at this pastor that's calling about there's going to be blood in the streets, all this kind of stuff, right? So I said, okay, let's let me look at this guy's church. This is a pastor saying this. Like, let me go to this pastor's church. So I went online on this pastor's church, right, in Tennessee. One that was saying that there's going to be blood in the streets if you don't stop messing with us. I looked at his church and I see the demographic. You know what that demographic was made of? Women, older women, old men, and homosexuals. Let me say that again. Women, mostly single mothers, because I saw a lot of single mothers. Older women, I'm talking about older women like in wheelchairs, older men, and homosexuals. That's what I saw. And I said, okay, so let's stop here for a second. There's going to be blood in the streets. Whose blood? Who you gonna fight against with that demographic? Who you gonna fight against? So you want to make these declarations, but then when people hear that, the wrong people hear that, and they're like, okay, I'm going out there. Are you gonna be on the front line, or are you gonna sit back and say, well, hey, listen, hey, you pushers, that's what's gonna happen. Meanwhile, you all tucked in your church. And you got a lot of people like this young lady here that are making these calls like this and saying, we're going to go to battle in the streets. Okay, how you going to do it? How you going to do it? I'm trying to find this other video here. If I can't find it, it's all good. It was another video I had. I can't find it right now. But it was another person that was doing the same kind of call. Same kind of call here. Meanwhile, again, what did I say about the civil rights movement? The foundation of it, the foundation of what made that, the successes. And again, we have already talked about the civil rights bill and what it really meant for black people, which was pretty much nothing, but I'm talking about the one accordness that they had. That's what we're looking at. That is what we're talking about. There was an understanding these people had when it came to this, that they had to rely and they had to depend on each other. That's what they had. Do you want to know today? Let's take a look at one of the trends that are happening on TikTok today. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at one of the trends that's happening right now. So I had to turn that down because, YouTube will flag it. But there's a trend on TikTok right now. Does this represent all black women? I always have to say this. It doesn't. It does not represent all black women. So nobody's saying that. But this trend is made up of a hefty amount of black women who are doing this whole, girl, I'm going to show you all the stuff you can get, with your EBT. Did you know you could do this? And taking pride in maxing out their EBT. In other words, taking pride in that this government that we will say day and night is evil and hate black people, but we're taking pride in, look at this EBT money they giving me, man. I'm going to run this EBT money. How are you think of you got a war going on. Okay. See, this is how I think. If I got a war going on, if there's a war between two countries, there's not going to be, well, we're going to agree that while we're blowing your brains out, we're going to make sure that we're taking care of your women and children. This is the mindset that we see today. On one hand, we want to say that we want to go to war against this system. But in the back of our minds, we got to make sure, though, that this system is still taking care of our women and children. How do you do that? How does a sane, healthy mind even think of that process? How do you even come up with that? You literally have numbers of your own women that are on TikTok and on social media dancing of the fact that they're getting government EBT money. They're dancing, getting this from the system that many of you are saying is too evil and hates all black people. How do you go to war against a system like that? I'm throwing things out to you because I want y'all to start using your brain with this stuff. Because a lot of people like to throw things out there and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But while you're saying that, you're like, well, I hope they give me my check. How is that even possible? I had another video. Like I said, it was another video I want to show real quick here. Because this video here I'm doing right now, this broadcast isn't going to be long. I wanted to read something to you. And we're talking about literacy here. All right. So let me read this to you as far as the literacy differences between that generation and today's generation. Okay. This is something I want you to think about. Okay. While access to education has improved, and I did a comparison between this generation and the generation of the 1960s. right? So that's what's happening here. It says, while access to education has improved, functional literacy remains low amongst Black Americans, possibly worse in terms of real world comprehension than what many elders in the 1960s achieved through rote memorization and strict discipline. See, they didn't really have much, but the way they were educated, and coach, I think you probably know what I'm talking about. The way you when it comes to education, it ain't so much you got to give everybody a ton of bells and whistles. I mean, we got bells and whistles all over the place, but there are certain things that really help people activate these parts of the brain where we remember things. And back then, memorization was a big part of education back then. Memorization and just doing things over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. You know, how you write and how you speak and all of that stuff over and over again, over and over again. We don't have that today. And so when they talk about basic literacy versus functional, let me talk about that. So while basic literacy has improved, and what I mean by basic literacy, the ability to read, okay? While the ability to read has improved, functional literacy has declined. What is functional literacy? Functional literacy is referring to understanding the information that you're reading. You understand? Understanding it. Anybody can read a book, but do you understand what you read? I see this all the time. I talk about this in the religious spaces. There are many people that'll sit back and they will pick up a book. You know it, especially in these Hebrew circles. They will pick up a book. They will find a couple of paragraphs and say, see, this is what this book is saying. And then I'm sitting up here like, okay, well, let me read the whole page. And once I read the whole page, I'm like, no, that's not what they're saying at all. You got to read the whole thing to get the full context. But a lot of people do not want to get that. You understand? So when it comes to getting even just the full context of things, if that's something that is a struggle for you, you're not ready to engage in any kind of battle. And I told y'all in the last video, I mentioned about how there was this white guy on X, and he was saying he's talking about black folks. He said, black people talking about how much they want to get into this street battle with us. He said, all we got to do is cut off their internet. That's it. He's saying the battle's over. And so I thought about that. I was like, well, I mean, are you lying? Is he lying? Let me give you this. I'm going to share with you this comment that someone left from me. I thought it was really interesting. Is this showing the whole thing? Hold on. Oh, no, it's not showing the whole thing. Hold on. This is it here. Okay, here it is right here. Here it is right here. Let me get at it. Okay. Here it is right here. This is under this one right here. A post I did yesterday. I said, when a crime involves a white person, there's a full forensic system that clicks in. When we go in especially in black social media space, they're looking at the hard evidence. They're looking at every angle. They're saying, well, did he say this and all this stuff? But then when we're talking about in-house crime, like, for example, in Philadelphia, you had children, black children that were shot simply because they were trying to swim. It wasn't a white person that did it. It was black folks that did it. But again, when you bring that up, what's the in-house forensic team? What are they doing? Oh, it ain't no big deal. It's not a big deal. Oh, it's a baby that got killed. Oh, we don't care about that. Who did it? Oh, we don't care about that. But then if it's a white officer involved, all of a sudden, Lord have mercy. See, the Bible told us that days are going to be like this, and we're going to have to fight, and we're going to have to come against these white people and all that. But we do it. Oh, it ain't no big deal. You want to talk about a separation? Yep, you need to separate yourself from people who think this way. Because what it shows is that truly black life does not matter until a white bullet is part of it. That's what it says. But anyway, I want you to take a look at this comment that someone wrote. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The person goes by the name of, I want you to keep in mind, Shady Beans. Shady, okay? First, the white Russian immigrants. They're talking about the case in the Cincinnati thing, the whole brawl thing, which I said in the post. I said I saw it. I kept scrolling because I already knew how people were just going to fly with this because it involved a white person. So I just kept it going. I said, whatever, wherever wherever it falls, it falls. I ain't defending nobody. I'm just going to keep it moving. Anyway, this person, I'm going to try to read what they wrote here. It says, first, the white Russian immigrants started the whole thing. The white woman was knocked out by another white person, and everyone is lying, trying to make black people look like we always the aggressor. It's all by design. How can you not see that? I question this channel a lot. Again, this is, if you think for one moment I'm basing this whole thing just on one story, then it shows just how short attention span you really have. Because if you read the post, it wasn't just that. There are many stories that we talk about all the time. That's just one of many. And like I said, again, what I was commenting on when I did mention the whole Cincinnati thing was how aggressively you saw numbers of black folks that were jumping in and giving a full analysis of the whole situation. But then in the same week, you had literally a baby that was several cases where black children were shot and killed. And I didn't see people that interested in that story. That's what I was referring to. I wasn't picking sides in the Cincinnati thing. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. But anyway, so here's my response. They said, this is my response. I said, quoted this individual where they said, I question this channel a lot. I said, good. I said, but don't just lock your intellect and emotions just on a tiny snapshot that is going viral on social media. I challenge you to take in the entirety of the post and prove it wrong without finding a white person to blame. Why is there less concern and less analysis when it comes to multiple murders by black folks on black folks? This is the challenge before you. That's what I told him. And then I want you to pay attention to the response. Now, was there anything bad or off or angry at that? No, not at all. I want him and others, when I put information out, challenge it, but make sure you challenge it with factual information. That's all I ask. I think anybody would ask the same thing. Challenge it. I don't care. And this was his response to what I said. He said, my man, you can't be serious. Why would I not be serious about telling you to look at the entirety of the situation? The white person was to BO. I don't know what that means. Mind you, I actually saw the whole video. Yeah, you definitely have an agenda. Have a nice life. You got it. LOL, SMH. And then he came back again. Still didn't answer my question. Mind you, I hold my people equally accountable. You definitely not balanced. I'm good though. Discernment definitely kicked in. Okay. And so after all of that, then I said this. I said, I asked you a simple question and encourage you to question. And instead you left two comments avoiding it. But I'm the one with the agenda, says the person with the name Shady Beans. Anyway, and then he comes back. You have me confused, my man. I'm not entertaining anything. You can keep the subtle insults. I can see, enjoy your life. You definitely don't have to worry about me. Other people will see also. So I responded back, and this, I guess, is the end of it. I said, my question to you has still remained unanswered. In return, you have avoided my question 3 times, made false accusations, completely checked out in frustration. It is very clear that you are not a person that can handle real adult conversations without blowing the fuse. Not something the black community needs right now. And so at this time, I guess that's all to the conversation. But this is exactly what I'm talking about here. I am challenging people to look at the bigger picture. Why is it that we have these kind of stories? User goes by the name of Calm Way on there. They talked about a video that's out here. The thing's going like super viral right now, where you have black individuals, 2 black women, who were driving in a car with 2 bodies of 2 black children in it. Now, that sounds freaky enough, but guess what? One of the women, she has been carrying these bodies around with her for over a year. Decomposing bodies she has been carrying around with her for a year. Now, it's easy to sit back and say, well, that's just one crazy person and that's it. But you have to understand, this individual has been going around. She's very active with her family, according to, if you watch the video, other people around her. So there were other people. She had a circle of people who were also around her. And apparently they were just like, didn't have the presence of mind to be like, hey, what is that smell? I keep smelling every time I get around you. And the thought of it could be a decomposing smell. Maybe we need to look into this. That didn't even cross their minds. Instead, it took white police officers to investigate and to find out, oh, you got 2 black children in the back of your car. Now, again, is she typical of all black women or all black people? No, again, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is this mental instability that we're seeing right now is the loudest voice that we're hearing right now, calling for all these different boycotts and movements and stuff like that. It's of various degrees of it. And what this thing we call the community or black community, unfortunately, there are no standards to draw lines and say, okay, people like this, you need to go away. There is no standard on that. Instead, it's going after these other groups that some of them who are willing, and able allies, you want to cross all of them out, but don't want to deal with these foundational, since that's the big word now, foundational issues. So again, just to recap, when we look at the older generation, when we look at the civil rights era generation, they were dealing with an enormous amount of pressure. And I would argue it was far worse than it is today. Anybody saying that it's worse today than it was back then, you crazy. No, we didn't have to, no, absolutely not. But I would say that it was far worse then than it is today. But the mindset that they had, while they would be dismissed and waved off as being pushovers and passive, they had an understanding that they had to look at the big picture. And when we look at the brain functions of both groups, they understood. When we look at the brain function, like I said, we're going to focus on 2 parts: the amygdala, which is the emotional component of your brain, and the prefrontal cortex. Okay. We talk about this in great length on this platform and on Samba Tree. Prefrontal cortex, it takes that emotion and it processes it, and it says, let's think of the big picture on this. Let's think this all the way out now. Let's think this all the way out. I know what we're feeling right now, but let's process this and make sure we're not making a mistake that's going to, something that we're going to regret for the rest of our lives. So they had that in that generation. Today, it's almost rare, unfortunately. Take a look on YouTube. You see people uploading some of the most intimate things. I don't understand why you would upload things like that. You just upload whatever, all your business on social media, not thinking that, everything you're uploading, they're recording and they're using. And what it shows is, again, this part of your brain, it's not functioning right. It doesn't mean you're retarded or whatever. It doesn't mean that. It just means that it's underdeveloped. And what we try to do here on this platform as a solution is not to tell you to go get a gun, because that would be the last thing you need to do right now. Some of y'all talking about all out civil war in the streets. The last thing you need is a gun in your house. The last thing you need is that. You need to get some help before you even dare even talk about that. Some of y'all have people in your house that are mentally off, but you just coddle it instead of addressing it once and for all and saying, hey, listen, we gotta take care of this. We got to take care of this, because what we don't want is to see our grandparents and our children get out there, do something crazy, and the only reason why they're doing it is because they're not getting the help they need at home. And then all of a sudden the cops get involved. And then all of a sudden now we're minus one member of our family. But this is what happens all the time. This kind of conversation, this discussion I'm having right now, it's very rare. Unfortunately, you won't find too many people talking like this. Instead, what people want is someone to stir them up and to tell them give you 5 reasons why you need to hate white people. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why you need to hate African people. I'm going to give you 20 reasons why you need to hate the Caribbeans. But when you keep asking them and saying, okay, all right, we've identified everybody we're going to hate. Okay, what are we building? What exactly is being built here? How are we healing these people, our people? How are we doing that? And when you challenge people on that, because they're not doing it, because they don't have solutions, they typically get angry and they don't know how to express themselves. Just like this individual, he just flames out and then goes away. So that is my challenge before you with this. Instead of buying into the next emotional story that involves some white people and black folks or whatever, my challenge to you is this. When you look at this generation in the past that we're talking about, civil rights generation, versus this one, what are the areas in your life can you improve on? I'm not suggesting that you get out there and let anybody just kick you up on the side of your head and, and just take the blows and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm asking you is this. What is your big picture? What is your big picture for you? For you. Not for all black people, but for you. And what are the practical steps you are taking to make that picture into a reality? Because if the first stroke of your picture is violence or something highly emotional, what I am suggesting to you is you are already starting off on the wrong foot. You got to develop this. You have to. Okay? Emotions are good. It's what makes us who we are. But it doesn't start and stop there. You also have to learn the other parts of your brain and how it brings balance so that you can build homes, so that you can build your own hospice institutions. You can build your own schools. Everybody and mama right now sitting up here making fun of Umar Johnson, and he's a crook and this and all this. He's a scammer and he, all this stuff. Okay, it's funny. Well, yeah, it's funny or whatever. But are you building a school? Why not? In what ways are you helping to bridge the education gap amongst your own people? Or are you going to waste time making fun and doing videos of Umar Johnson? Umar Johnson, we don't care about. Okay, he's already shown who he is. We got it. But how many of these platforms that are out here today are taking any steps in helping to bridge the educational divide instead of waiting for Mr. Charlie to do something? If that's your strategy, you're not ready for a battle and you're not ready for a war either. It's time to wake up. Okay. So I just wanted to do this broadcast here and go over that. When I saw that comment, especially, I wanted to do that. And plus I had been thinking about the civil rights generation and just saying how, unfortunately, a lot of times they get a bad rap about stuff. But in reality, when we sit down and actually think about the mindset that they had to have and why that is desperately needed today, it is worthy, I think, of a deeper conversation. And so watch the comments on this video here. I'll be very interested to see if people were actually paying attention or they're going to dismiss me as a coon. Either way, I'm used to it, whatever. But it's going to be very interesting to see just how many people actually listen to what was saying and what solutions they are actually laying on the table. And that's it. So that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day or weekend. Remember, Yes, we did upload the latest installment of our Real Intelligence series over on our Somber Tree page. Make sure you check that out. And I will also forgot to mention our new channel, which is the Black GPT. Make sure you check that out. The Black GPT. Let me get this up for you right quick. If you haven't checked it out, please do. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you check it out. I will be between today and tomorrow. I will have another video up that I'm working on right now as I'm speaking. It's right here. This first video is this one here, where black babies really use this alligator bait. And again, before you jump to conclusions, watch the video. The video is 3 minutes and 37 seconds. If you don't have the time and want to dive into the comments, then please just leave. Just leave. Don't even bother. But if you think the conclusion, if you already believe what you think the conclusion is, then don't even bother, because I assure you, we're taking a closer look at the claim. The claim is not being dismissed. Okay. The next one, we're going to take a look at the whole. We're going to take a closer look at are Black Americans the true descendants of the Hebrews mentioned in the Bible? All right. And we're going to lay it out. It's going to be it's going to be condensed. It's not going to be a 2-hour video or whatever, like I usually do. This is going to be condensed. My goal is to make it 15, maybe 20 minutes tops. And it's going to be full of resources and links that you can look up yourself. We're not going to do this whole thing where I believe in my heart I'm one. No, we're going to look at language. We're going to hit it all. We're going to hit it all. And that's it. So be on the lookout for that. That will either be tonight, late tonight, or tomorrow. I'll have that up for you. Okay. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care. And someone asked, can I send a link to the channel? Just go to the community page. Go to the community page. You will see the link there. Okay. I'm gonna scroll here, right here. And when you click on this link here, it will take you to the video, which is basically taking you to the channel. Okay, so that's how you'll get to the channel. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.